when a strange phenomenon that started granting people powers and making them the next cool kids on block occurred. Hay, who also gained abilities, is used as a tool by one of the agencies trying to figure out the mystery behind it. He soon realizes he's just a pawn in a bigger game. It's your normal night in Tokyo with the police chasing around a suspect. Just like in any other city, the police are doing a horrible job trying to catch one man. The suspect goes by the alias, Lewis, and he's a contractor. Contractors are people with unique abilities who showed up 10 years ago when a field known as Hell's Gate suddenly appeared. These contractors work with mediums called dolls to carry out reconnaissance and other stuff. Back to Lewis and the cops. He managed to escape them using his ability which controlled gravity. His luck ran short when he met with another contractor with a mask known as Hay, who asked him for a package before leaving him dead. The next day, police were investigating the matter but couldn't find much aside from his affiliation with the French Foreign Secretariat. They couldn't find his cause of death and linked it to another suspect with stellar number BK201. BK201 was a suspect that they hadn't been able to solve any case on and knew nothing about. As I said, the police and their habit of being terrible at the job. They assigned an officer named Kiriha to the case of a lady, Shinoda Chiaki, who seemed to be connected to the whole thing. Later on, we see a young man known as Li Shunsheng, who moves into his new apartment but is mistaken for a TV repairman by a crazy old woman. The woman shows him to the room and introduces him to his neighbor, a beautiful young lady named Haraguchi. The scene then shifts to two cops at a club surrounded by two ladies. You just know these guys are going to get fired soon. One of the ladies is Haraguchi, but they call her Ayame. It's not until her shift is over that they discover she's the Chiaki lady they're looking for. She runs out of there with cops on her tail. Only a matter of time before she bumps into her neighbor Lee, who helps her out by grabbing her and starts making out to distract the cops. I mean, if it's that easy, sign me up for this as well. Haraguchi leaves him and continues her escape. She gets to an alley and hides there when a guy named Jean scares the hell out of her by covering her mouth. Aren't there better ways to approach ladies these days? She asks about Lewis, but Jean says he's caught up with something. He asks her about the package, but she says Lewis told her not to tell anyone, and asks to be taken to Louis. Wrong call, miss. You should have known better. Jean attempts to knock her out with a handkerchief when Lee shows up and bonks him on the head with his tripod. Hero of the day takes Haraguchi and runs out of there till they get to a bridge. Haraguchi tells him to run, but it's too late when Jean pops out of a wall and knocks him over the bridge. Seems Jean is a contractor as well. Concrete Man ends up knocking out Haraguchi, and she wakes up moments later on a couch. She sees Jean and two other guys around a table. Jean is placing some rocks and says it's something about his price to pay for the contract. Huh. I thought these powers were like a buy one get one free kind of situation. He tells her that Lewis is dead and was a contractor as well, which she had no idea about. Jean asks her about the Lee who helped, but she says she doesn't know who he is. Now that's a lie. You even kissed the guy. She makes a run for it when Jean approaches her, but the door is locked, obviously. Jean tells her that unlike dolls, he has a personality and is a sensitive person. One of the other guys senses that something is off when the lights go out. The door's system unlocks and Haraguchi is able to open it and escape. They chase after her, but a black cat suddenly shows up and attacks them. By the time they get outside, she's nowhere to be found. She meets Lee suddenly, who seems to be fine despite being knocked off a bridge into a moving train. Just who is this guy? There seems to be a whole lot going on here, and this Lee guy definitely is more than meets the eye. Lee was giving her piggyback ride back home when she told him about how governments were trying to monopolize the whole contractor situation. They used technology from the gate to erase memories of people who came in contact with contractors. Just like how it is in the Men in Black movies. They get back to their apartment and Haraguchi finds out her place has been busted. She asks Lee not to leave and holds him tight so they both go into his room. Time for some real action, if you know what I mean. During their conversation, Lee suggests that they both run away together since she has nowhere else to go. Dude thinks he's living a fairy tale where he escapes with the love of his life and lives happily ever after. They escape the place when the police come searching for her and head to a restaurant. Lee suggests they escape by forging passports and documents and tells her he has a contact who can do it for them. Haraguchi says she can sell information on the gate technology so they can get money since she used to work as a researcher. She also tells him her name is Chiaki. The waitress brings over a mountain of food you only see during a king's feast, and Chiaki tells Lee he's definitely going to get obese. She goes to the washroom while Lee talks to a man sitting behind him. The man tells him to get information on a package and trash Chiaki before she becomes a hindrance. Some guys walk into the restaurant looking for them, and one of them is a contractor. Lee and Chiaki manage to escape with Lee having a gunshot wound. They get to a bridge where Chiaki patches him up and hands over a key to him. Probably the key to her heart. They get on a train to a different location. When they arrive, Lee uses the key to unlock a safe and collect a book. Meanwhile, the other guys are still on their tail. As they pass a police station, Lee says something to her and she passes out on the spot while he continues his escape. So much for a happy ending. Lee eventually gets cornered by Jean and his goons, then gets shot by Chiaki, who was supposed to have passed out. Jean says that's not the real Chiaki, but just a doll that has been programmed with her personality, and the real Chiaki's corpse was found by the police. Lee revealed he was the one who killed Lewis, meaning he's also the contractor known as Hay. Unfortunately for them, his jacket is bulletproof like Batman's armor, so he gets up and kills 2 guys before he's saved by the Chiaki doll who steps in front of him to block Jean's ability. The man who gave him the contract, Huang, showed up alongside his doll, Yin, and a talking black cat. I've always suspected that cat since the show started. Hay tracked Jean thanks to Yin and killed him before the police showed up. When he got back to his apartment, Kiriha showed up to ask questions about Chiaki, to which he feigned ignorance. Hay does some house chores the next day and has breakfast before heading. When he goes out, he sees the crazy lady mishandling the black cat while telling him that pets aren't allowed. He suggests the lady should cook it, and I know he's going to get some payback for that. On his way, he grabs a watch from Yin, who seems to be handling a shop. Maybe dolls are just trying to survive out here as well. He gets to his workplace where he's sent to deliver a package to a man known as Tahara. He's a scientist who survived the first incident of the Hellgate and has been cooped up doing some research. Tahara gets a call and suddenly asks Hay to drive him to a school since he's a bum who doesn't have a driver's license. While there, the black cat informs Hay of 2 guys who just checked into a hotel. Tahara isn't only a bum but a deadbeat dad as well who only goes home to his daughter once a month. He was called because his daughter, Mai, was seen burning stuff behind a building. Tahara takes her out and they get into an argument inside the car before she leaves and joins her friends. One of her friends requested she have dinner at her place, but Mai declined on the way and said her dad might finally come home. Mai gets back home to see that Tahara is worse than Gon's dad in Hunter x Hunter. Mai gets caught shoplifting at a store in the evening but is saved by Hay, who came along and paid for the items. He also saved her from the police who were questioning her. She got tired of him following her and you can see she's a neglected brat. Hay offers to walk her home but she doesn't want to, so they head to an amusement park before getting chased by the police. Who goes to the park at night anyway? They spend the rest of the night and the next day talking like some kind of couple until some guys pull up and start chasing them. They eventually corner Mai and a spot on her hand starts to glow. The next thing she sees is fire everywhere. The police got to the scene but the whole place was like a smoked up chimney and burnt barbecue. Mai walked mindlessly and suddenly came to her senses when she hit a pole. When she remembered what happened, she ran into the streets carelessly. A car nearly hit her, but our female Human Torch set the car ablaze. Kiriha was on the phone with someone who referred to Mai as a moratorium. These moratoriums were inbred contractors made specifically for artillery purposes. Some kind of biological nukes that'd have you running home to your mother. Kiriha got to the National Observatory where she met an old lady named Hoshimi, who was hooked up to a system. Hoshimi acts as a tracker for contractors. The area was being evacuated when Mai's friend saw her sitting in an alley. She tried to help her escape, but Mai ended up setting her friend and the friend's father ablaze. She ran to a playground where she was surrounded by the police. A contractor killed the police and took her. Tahara then got a call from them that they had his daughter. Meanwhile, Hay showed up and asked Tahara why he experimented on Mai. The scientist said he tried to suppress her powers from a young age from seeds of a flower he found when he first went for reconnaissance in the Hell's Gate. Unfortunately, he found out it was impossible to suppress her powers, and he just ended up turning her into a natural gas cooker. Hay showed up to save her and got into a fight with the contractors. Tahara came as well to get his daughter, but they got into a scuffle and he was able to calm her down. He was about to kill her when he got killed by one of the other contractors. Hay killed that one, while Mai turned the other guy into ashes. Huang and the cat showed up, and they took Mai. By the time the useless police showed up, there were no traces. Typical of them. A blonde-haired man walks into a shop to have a deal with some guys. They try to pull a fast one on him, but he freezes one of the guy's hands and breaks it off. Their leader runs off but meets another contractor who can control the weather. She drops a pool of water on him while the blonde man freezes him on the spot. When the contractors get the location of what they're looking for, they turn the leader to the next Statue of Liberty and leave. They arrive at a place and meet a red-haired girl. The man introduces himself as November 11th, the lady as April, and the young boy as July, and tells him they're from MI6. Can't believe they couldn't come up with better code names. The red-haired girl known as Havoc landed in Tokyo and was taken in by Pandora, an institute led by the UN to research Hell's Gate. Havoc claimed many lives in the Third South American War, but became a regressor who lost her powers and memories. Kiriha meets up with November and they head out. They get a call suddenly about the CIA trying to retrieve Havoc, but when they stop, November tells her the real Havoc is in the trunk of their car. He kept her cramped up there like some sort of canned sardine. They try to escape to Pandora headquarters but get stopped by Hay, who gets in a fight with November and April. Hay makes November chase after him while someone knocks out Kiriha with a gas in the car, and they take Havoc. Kiriha gets chewed out by her superiors, and November tells her that their enemy is most likely not the CIA. Meanwhile, Hay took the helpless warhead for questioning and asked about the whereabouts of his sister, Pi. The interrogation doesn't get Hay the information he wants, even though he broke the fingers of a helpless, vulnerable girl who's also a catastrophe. Havoc even mocks him with some questions and asks if he's truly a contractor. Meanwhile, November meets up with Kiriha and asks to cooperate with her since losing Havoc was also their fault. Kiriha's partners were supposed to be watching the MI6 agents, but we can all see how that turned out. Hay, on the other hand, prepares a massive feast and gives a plate to Havoc, either to poison her or sleep with her. She talks to him about her remuneration for her contract, which is drinking the blood of children. Hers is the worst I've seen in this show. No wonder everyone's scared of her. Hay decides to be a good person and starts feeding her when she finds it hard to pick up a spoon. She offers to help him and asks to be taken to the Hellgate to regain her memories and power. This shouldn't be done, but I guess Hay is just a buffoon. They get there, and Havoc starts having flashbacks of the war, so she asks Hay to kill her. Mr. Grim Reaper refuses and decides to run away with her. But his love story ends when November sticks some icicles through her. Hay gets into a fight with the MI6 agents but is saved by Huang and Yin. Huang reprimands Hay, but he takes it like a spoiled brat and walks out. A stupid private detective introduces himself like he owns the show, but his spotlight is cut by his assistant, Kiko, who walks in and tells him the office smells worse than a pigsty. After a few moments, a lady walks into the office to report the case of a missing cat. Guy was about to refuse because of his fear for felines, but Kiko accepted the job after hearing how much the lady was going to pay. They head to a restaurant and see Hay being his usual gluttonous self, while Kiko is planning how to deceive little kids with missing cat posters. Guy then finds out about a case of suicide from a certain cosmetic company. After some more investigation, he finds out that his client's husband also worked for the company. Guy goes to the lady's house to inquire more about the situation, but ends up being too mesmerized by her melons. She tells him to investigate her husband's first wife, Toshiko, and says she might be the one who took the cat. This foolish detective ended up being seduced to the point of having his ears cleaned by her. Just how do you even end up in that situation? Hay ends up finding the contractor who's causing the suicides by possessing people's bodies. They get into a fight and Hay gets saved by the black cat Mao before he ends up as a folktale for kids. Guy bumps into Hay, which he's been doing quite a lot, and tails him but loses him very soon as well. He sneaks into Toshiko's garbage truck, which she calls a mansion, and finds Mao, who he mistakes for the missing cat, and starts chasing it. He catches the cat but discovers a dead body in the garbage heap of the place. The police arrive at the scene and identify the dead body as Toshiko. Guy goes to see the widow and she lets him know that the cat he brought isn't the mission one. Not only is he incompetent, but he's also too stupid to tell the difference. He leaves the house with Mao while trying to figure out who could have killed Toshiko. Guy gets confronted by the suicide contractor to get back his jacket, but the silly detective couldn't read the situation and assumes he's the one who killed Toshiko. The contractor possesses him to get his jacket, but Mao does the same to a crow and steals the jacket. Mao hits a wall like a bland bat and gets back to his possessed cat form. Hay shows up to attack the contractor but ends up saving Mao, who was about to drown, letting the contractor get away. Hay gets information about the contractor whose name is Kapoor. Apparently, Kapoor possessed another contractor who could control gravity and lost his main body in the process. Guy goes back to confront the widow, and she tells him that she discovered the body 6 months ago. She didn't tell the police because of the envy she felt towards the first wife. Their husband was always obsessed with the first wife's scent, and the widow felt she deserved to rot. Some real hate between women as usual. Meanwhile, He confronted Kapoor and killed him while Huang confiscated the items he was holding. The missing cat case was closed, and Guy still got the remaining money. People are being paid out here for doing nothing. Kiriha meets up with a man named Richard Liu, who is asking to be protected while giving info on a contractor that she's looking for. Before they can get to a safe location, Liu is killed with an ability that turns him into a donut, leaving a hole in his chest. Kiriha's father, Naoyasu, who's the head of security, arrives at the scene and explains that the victims are all part of a mafia in Hong Kong. Naoyasu goes to get dinner with her daughter, and she chooses the hotel of the boss of the mafia. She probably has a death wish, or really doesn't like her dad. Her dad tells her of an upcoming promotion for her and then leaves. While sees her dad out, she bumps into her childhood friend Alice, who's also the daughter of the mafia boss. Alice invites Kiriha to her birthday party, which the policewoman completely forgot about. Such a bad friend. Kiriha changes into a dress that makes me think policewomen aren't so bad, and they head to the venue. She meets her subordinate, Saitu, who tells her the party is just a disguise for the executives of the organization to meet. Wei, Alice's bodyguard, lures the executives to a room and kills them, while Kiriha is lured to a greenhouse area by Alice. Kiriha sees Alice's dead father's body there, and Alice tells her that Wei killed him, and he's also the contractor they've been looking for. Daddy's little girl got tired of taking orders and decided to take company. Kiriha runs away and bumps into Hei, who's hiding as well. Hei lies about the reason he's there, most likely. He just has to be lying. Alice, on the other hand, is getting high off bee stings while shooting up the place and looking for Kiriha. They escape when Alice runs out of bullets, but the entire building is on lockdown. They end up hiding in the toilet and start having some heart-to-heart conversations, while Hei plays the role of an idiot effortlessly. Hei goes to bring Saitu so they can all have fun there, I wish. He ends up sneaking Kiriha out in a service cart while Hei goes back to the green room to grab the stone flower. The flower turns to a crystal in his hand when Wei walks into the room. Wei is too much for him to handle in their fight, and he ends up throwing Hei off the roof. Saitu then gets led into a room where Alice is waiting for them. Alice shoots them, but misses. Wei walks into the room and betrays her by splashing his blood on her and erasing that part of her body. Some really sick ability. Hei busts into the room and uses the pool of blood as a medium to shock Wei. This guy just doesn't die. He collects the crystal and leaves, saving Kiriha and Saitu as well. Due to the event, Kiriha rejects her promotion and hopes to do better. Meanwhile, Huang lets Hei know that Wei's body is no longer in the morgue. I guess it isn't so easy to kill a contractor such as him. Hei gets on a bus to infiltrate the Pandora facility because of an incident with a missing meteor fragment stolen by the CIA. A girl named Corinna starts talking to him and telling him some weird tales. She must be one of them lunatics that talk to strangers. They all go through a compulsory screening inside. While they pass through a checkpoint, Corinna starts acting crazy, like she's seeing things, and gets taken away by security. You see, she's a lunatic. Hei goes through some weird orientation since he's working as a janitor there. He bumps into one of the researchers, named Mina, who's working for the syndicate as well. They meet up somewhere else and exchange some info while Mina tells him not to rely on her. Later on, Hei goes into a room with telescopes, and a scientist named Nick confronts him from behind. Hei tells him of his interest in telescopes, and they both go outside to do some stargazing where Nick talks of his paralyzed sister. Hei sees Corinna the next day, acting all hysterical in the cafeteria. I was joking before, but I guess she really is crazy. She tampers with a telescope later at night and gets shocked by someone who sneaks up on her, leaving her dead. The next day, Hei gets framed for the murder, and the security interrogates him but finds nothing. They find out Corinna was a courier sent by the CIA but was planning on handing over the fragment in exchange for her to leave the facility. A search goes on at the facility, and Hei starts having some weird visions of a girl. Just then, the scientists notice traces of the fragment through the camera. Mina confronts Hei about the illusions he's seeing, but he tells her not to worry about it. She runs out and meets Kikuchi, Hei's boss, and also a very foolish, simple man. Hei sees Nick packing his stuff to join the reconnaissance team. Nick gifts him a telescope and leaves. When Hei gets to the cafeteria, Kikuchi sits with him and acts like he just had a failed relationship with Mina. It's always the silly simpletons. An emergency occurs while Hei confronts Mina about acting on her own. While looking at the video feedback, they see dead bodies of the reconnaissance team. Mina tells Hei that she suspects Nick to be responsible for the incident. Nick himself is posing as injured in a wheelchair and told Hei how he's considering returning to NASA. At the same time, it seems Mina is not only interested in research but also Hei as well. Tough luck for her. There's no hope considering how stupid he is. Hei tails Nick and the security chief only to see the chief getting his brain turned to fried chicken by Nick. Electroman here explains to Hei that he was hired by the CIA to retrieve the meteor in exchange for a position at NASA. They get into a fight while Nick tries to escape, but Hei gets distracted by a vision of his sister. The meteor fragment causes a huge flash, and inside, Hei sees Nick getting younger and enters a spaceship with his younger sister. I wonder why Nick had to turn into a little brat. On his way out, Hei confronts Sergei, who says he knew about Nick, but just wanted to see the power of the fragment for himself. Hei returns to the city and is told to rest for a while by Huang. Yin is seen having flashbacks of the human she was created from, known as Kiersey. Hei is having a phone call at the same time, and the person on the line says Yin is useless and can't fulfill her only purpose. With the way the show has been going, the dolls all seem pointless and just occupy space. At the observatory, Konami gets an alert about contractors convening at a specific point. 2 contractors meet under a bridge, a guy and a woman. The guy notices the apparitions, keeping an eye on them, and captures it while establishing a connection with Yin's own. I can see why she's so useless. A famous pianist known as Castanen tells Guy to look for Yin. Hei also gets informed by Huang that they can't contact her and she was probably abducted. Yin wanders through the city and gets lured by her own apparition by Izthak, the contractor who made a connection with it. Hei and Mao try to save her, but are attacked by Izthak's companion, Bertha. Hei plays the hero once again and saves Yin from being turned into mashed potatoes. Castanen and Kiko come to the scene and pick her up. Castanen asks Guy to protect Yin while Hei gets chewed by Huang and told to kill Yin. Toss her out like some used tissue. Castanen gets on a train with them and heads somewhere. He tries to persuade Yin to go back to their homeland with him, but she says she's not going. Meanwhile, Itzhak and Bertha are on their tail like an ex who doesn't know when to give up. Kiko was sleeping like a hoodlum when Castanen and Yin escaped to an abandoned building. Yin noticed that they were being followed because of the apparition. Guy goes after her and meets Hei, who knocks him out for not being able to keep his mouth shut. Meanwhile, in the abandoned building, Yin plays the piano and remembers how her mom got unalived by Truck Kun. Hei meets up with them in the building, but the other contractors arrive and Bertha takes down the building with her horrible voice, literally. Yin takes out the fat lady with his electricity, while Itzhak gets shot by Huang. As Izthak perishes, all the apparitions he absorbed become free. Huang hesitates to shoot Yin when displays emotions by crying. Yin denies Castanen's offer to go back, so Hei knocks him out and erases his memory. April sees a young girl with a young boy get in a car and drive off. She calls November and tells him she's found February and gets into a taxi, but before she finishes the conversation, the taxi explodes. November gets to the hospital to see his vegetable partner and informs Decade about the call. Decade says February abandoned MI6 5 years ago and stole gate-related information from them. He tells November to apprehend her, and they wonder why she has shown up now. When different government buildings start getting blown up in the city and a meteor fragment is stolen, people start thinking the MI6 and CIA want to start a war. Hei confronts November, who's about to go look for February. Can't believe such a small girl is causing so much chaos. November asks Hei about February, who also went by Amber when she joined the syndicate, but Hei has no idea about her being in Tokyo. November realizes she also played the syndicate like a bunch of fools and drives off. He confronts Maki, the little boy that accompanies Amber, and tries to trap, but he becomes fossil fuel when Maki blows him up. While Hei still tries to figure out where she is, Amber confronts Yin at her tobacco shop. At the observatory, Hoshimi starts speaking about misfortune coming soon as an event called the Solar Maximum draws near. The last time it occurred was 5 years ago. It was also the last time Hoshimi spoke until now. It must smell like bad breath in there. Hei gets back home and sees a love letter from Amber, and he realizes she has taken Yin to win his heart back. Huang pulls up to drive him, but the man diverts and says the syndicate doesn't want him to meet her. I guess they're against happy endings. Hei tries to run, but Huang shoots him, and Hei ends up frying the old man's brain. Meanwhile, November was captured by Maki and Amagiri. They ask him to join their organization, Evening Primrose, but he refuses, and Kiriha comes to his rescue thanks to July. Maki and Amagiri escape, but Maki runs to look for Amber since he's stupidly in love with her. He confronts Hei on the way, but the Grim Reaper escapes. November gets into a fight with Maki while Kiriha chases Hei closely behind. When Hei finds Amber and Yin, he asks Amber about his sister, but she's so happy to see her lost love. Kiriha and Amagiri show up at the scene and are about to shoot him when Amber freezes time and steals a kiss for herself. Of course, they give the most overpowered ability to a desperate chick. She leaves with Amagiri and meets up with the rest of her organization members. By the time she unfreezes time, only Kiriha is left at the scene. Meanwhile, November took his revenge and killed Maki. Yoshimitsu, Kiriha's boss, informs her that Amber was the first contractor discovered, and after that was when a huge part of South America disappeared from the face of the earth. At a restaurant, some buffoon tries to leave without paying and ends up attacking Kenji, a member of the Nakazawa group. Hei, who's working as a waiter there, comes to help. But Kenji's brother, Hitotsubashi, takes care of the situation. Kenji ends up taking Hei out to eat as a way to thank him and tries to uncover the secret to his martial arts. How did someone so stupid end up in a gang? Hei invites Kenji over when his motorcycle breaks down, and they all end up having a feast at the old lady's apartment, including his neighbors. When Hei returns from his meeting with Huang, Kenji thanks him and heads out. The young gangster meets up with his brother, who tells him he wants to divide the gang and take over. Hitotsubashi leaves him in charge of a female doll, and Kenji tries his best to get down with the doll. Hei later arrives at the scene but doesn't find the doll there. He returns home to see Kenji with it, and Kenji asks to use his place as a hideout for a bit. Kenji becomes even more of a fool by falling in love with the doll. He then tells Hei he wants to run away with her. Hei helps him out and goes to get some clothes for the doll while bumping into Kiriha at the store. Luckily, Kiriha thinks he's still the exchange student Lee, and she helps with his shopping. Yin is back at Hei's place and helps the doll change into something cute before they leave for the train station. The gang members find Kenji there and Hei helps him to escape, but Kenji gets caught by his brother. Meanwhile, Hei is stupidly still trying to play a hero, which leaves me to wonder if he has a death wish. Hei finds out where Kenji is thanks to Yin tracking the doll's apparition. He saves him, and Kenji forces Hitotsubashi to drive him to the train station. It's during their ride that it's revealed that they aren't blood brothers. Kenji is just some brat who is clinging to an adult. He leaves with his newfound love doll while Hitotsubashi gets shot by a random person that bumps into him. Hei gets back home and receives a package from the lover boy and is also gifted Kenji's bike. Huang is out drinking at a shop owned by the wife of his old partner, Isozaki. He remembers their time together and how he was trying to woo Isozaki's wife and probably steal her from him. Later, Hei gets a mission to infiltrate a religious cult and kill their guru after he is stopped at his door by two crazy women who seem to be from Jehovah's Witnesses. He's to work with a lady named Shihoko, who Huang later found out was a part of the syndicate. She was also his first kiss in his lonely, miserable life. Hei meets up with her, and she informs him of the guru's ability to transform, and also says she'll kill the guru while he takes care of the rest. Trying to steal the spotlight from my man. Meanwhile, Huang is still with another man's wife and remembers how Isozaki got killed by Shihoko. It was then that he was offered to join the syndicate or have his memories erased. Hei and Shihoko were in the room with Arma the Guru when Amagiri walked in. Arma noticed Shihoko could see an apparition in the room, and the entire plan was as good as a crashed plane. Hei tried to take care of the situation and kill Arma, but he was stopped by Amagiri. Shihoko was caught, and Hei escaped the place while informing Huang of what happened. Huang and Hei go back to infiltrate the building and find Shihoko. Huang rushes to the only woman who has ever touched him while Hei goes to look for the guru in a deserted village. Huang and Shihoko escape, and she tells him that Isozaki hid his true identity. The man was part of the founding members of the crazy cult, and the picture they found that day was how Arma actually looked. Huang gets to a hideout with Shihoko and says he'll kill her if Hei doesn't return. Meanwhile, Hei got into a fight with Amagiri, who invited him to join their organization like Amber wanted. Hei refused, and they fought, but Amagiri let the whole thing go and said he'd find another way to get dolls. Hei found the real Arma, whose remuneration was aging after using her transform ability. The years really haven't been kind to her. Arma uses her ability once more and ends up dying. Hei returns to Huang and sees Shihoko, who's suffering from her remuneration of gaining her human emotions. Huang hesitates to kill his love and asks Hei to kill them both. Hei tells both of them to run away together like some Disney fantasy show, while Mao refuses to be a part of whatever the hell is going on. Shihoko already knew the syndicate wouldn't let them go and jumped in front of Truck-kun to save Huang. Kiriha and her subordinates track a contractor who they suspect is working with Evening Primrose, EPR. They capture him and she reports to her boss, who tells her to go meet the chief of security at the US Embassy, Harris. They get there and try to persuade Harris, but the guy is too much of a proud dimwit to understand why they need to increase their security. Kiriha meets November on her way out, and he tells her about a scientist named Robert Schroeder, who's been abducted from Pandora. He tells her there's a possibility of EPR members working undercover at the US Embassy. Brita, who's posing as Harris's secretary, goes underground to a place where Robert is being held. She has a conversation with someone in a white robe who says the syndicate might be spreading rumors about the attack on the embassy. They decide to wait for Amber's orders, and the person in the white robe is revealed to be Wei. I guess dead men do tell tales. Hei infiltrates the embassy and sets a bomb but is confronted by Wei. Meanwhile, Harris is still as dense as ever and is preventing Kiriha from helping even after an explosion. While Hei is fighting Wei, Brita comes to save her partner and they teleport away. It seems Brita's ability doesn't let her teleport with clothes, and I would kill to be in that space right now. Kiriha tails November to the underground facility, but he has disappeared with Brita and Robert by the time she gets there. Pandora agents arrive and arrest her while Mao is discovered by Amber on top of a tree. Mao gets taken by Amber, and he wakes to find himself amid EPR members, including a naked November 11th. Why didn't he just go get dressed like Brita? On the other hand, Pandora freed Kiriha, and she meets up with the other MI6 agents, and Decade, who tells her November might be working with the terrorists. Meanwhile, Amber brings in Robert as they have a meeting, and the mad scientist says all contractors might disappear from the planet soon. At least some normalcy will come back. Amber then tells November that he'll die when he leaves the building as a way to prove to him that she can see the future. Hei sneaks into the building and gets into a fight with Wei and Brita. He manages to escape their grasp and confront Amber, but the meteorite in her pocket starts reacting, and he hears his sister's voice. With his guard down, Kiriha was about to apprehend him, but Huang came to his rescue. Kiriha should just give up already. The plot is way bigger than her. November goes to see Decade and gives him a report on the syndicate. He ends up killing Decade and the guards in the room, and dies from the injuries he suffered, just like Amber predicted. Why doesn't she just predict her way to becoming the richest person ever? Mao ends up telling Hei and Huang what he heard from Amber. The syndicate is trying to erase all contractors, and Amber is fighting against them, which is why she concealed the South American gate 5 years ago. Guy, the stupid detective, once again gets a weird request to help fill out the questionnaire of a client's son. Meanwhile, Kiriha tries to probe her boss on November's death and the whole situation, but Yoshimitsu tells her to drop the case. On the other hand, Mao tells Huang how Hei and Amber worked together during the South American War, and at the time he wasn't a contractor. He says the bright light which caused the gate to disappear is the same reason Amber needs Hei now, since his powers are needed to replicate that event. Eric, a high-ranking official of Pandora, made arrangements for the elimination of Hei's unit, since his powers can cause a catastrophe again. Tough luck for BK-201. Kiriha finds out she's being followed and later bumps into Hei. They go for a dinner date and start eating like hoodlums. They were made for each other. While leaving, they see Guy and Kiko, who are still on their unfortunate questionnaire hunt. Hei helps Guy's broke butt to pay for food, and he continues his outing with Kiriha. They set out to watch the stars, and so does the whole city, since they believed they could see the stars of the past that day. Hei gets attacked by one of the syndicate's contractors on his way home, but is saved by Wei. Wei tells him that Amber wants to meet him at the gate, and he'll act as a guide. She must be really obsessed with this dude. Meanwhile, the same event that took place in South America is about to happen, and Amber is mobilizing her troops. Huang drops off Hei and the rest inside a tunnel and leads a syndicate helicopter away while trying to survive with his gunshot wounds. Everyone eventually wants to play a hero in the end. Kiriha goes to see Robert and meets Eric in the room, who tells her that BK-201 is trying to replicate the event of Heaven's Gate. Robert tells her there's a 30-minute time frame in which Hei's power would only be able to work. Yoshimitsu walks in and tells Kiriha the truth about the syndicate and how she's nothing more than a pawn who can never become the queen. At the same time, Hei and the rest use a subway to get to the gate and come to a point where Wei fights him. Wei felt humiliated after losing to him for the first time. Guess what? He lost again and died like a chicken, so much for honor. Meanwhile, Huang blows up himself alongside the syndicate agents that tracked him to a harbor. Amagiri and Brita sneak in to destroy the particle unit, but it's only just a decoy. Amagiri gets burnt like a barbecue by a contractor while Brita manages to escape. As Hei, Yin, and Mao go deeper into the gate, they get to a point where Mao loses consciousness and the cat's instincts take over. The apparitions Yin was using as a guide get cut off thanks to Eric and the scientists. Somehow Yin still finds a way to direct Hei, and they jump off a bridge and start walking on water like Jesus. On the other side, they see a very young Amber. Saito, Matsumoto, and Yutaka force their way into the facility while the Pandora agents are fighting against the contractors. As the solar maximum and the particle accelerator reach their max, Robert and his scientists tried to divert the energy while preventing Hei from reaching the core. Inside the gate, Amber reveals that Hei's sister has been inside him since and is also the source of his powers. So did he eat her or something? She presses the meteor fragment against his chest, and it reacts, engulfing Tokyo in a very bright light. Inside the light, Hei sees Pai alongside all the contractors that are dead, including Huang. There, he decides to live his life as both a contractor and a human. Amber gets into a sweet smooching session with him before they all bid him farewell. Hei woke up from his vision, but Amber had completely disappeared by using her ability to rewind time. This allowed Hei to attack the Saturn ring and escape. Robert told Eric that they couldn't activate it again since BK-201 changed the particles on a quantum level, and also said Hei would be able to change a human to a contractor with his powers. Damn. He's like a god, basically. Eric tried to get Robert arrested, but Yoshimitsu shot him and planned to cover it up by saying he violated UN laws. Kiriha tried to bring the whole situation to light by recording the conversation between her and Yoshimitsu, but he attacked her. Hei came in and played the hero of the day once again and saved her. Kiriha got Yoshimitsu arrested in the end, and the knowledge of contractors became more known by the public. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.